Gerrymandering has been going on a long time in this country, but it's a lot worse than it has ever been before. If you give the power to politicians to draw the lines in a way that will favor their party and keep them in power, they'll do it.
What has changed is sort of the sophistication of the technology. So we know more about voters, and voters are more polarized. Politicians are able to sort of use surgical precision to carve voters in or out of electoral districts.
Not every state is gerrymandered, but often a lot of them are. It's determined control of the House of Representatives in recent years. It's determined control of state legislatures. You end up with more extreme partisan outcomes in terms of what gets passed, things that don't reflect the will of the people.
We are all here today for a House State Government informational meeting on a redistricting bill which would create an independent commission.
And so one solution is independent commissions, which is to say you take the power to draw the district lines altogether away from the legislators and you give it to these bodies that exist in a number of states, which are designed to be nonpartisan.
Independent redistricting commissions, or IRCs, these are bodies that are separate from the state legislature that are tasked with establishing these electoral districts.
In general, it is a group that can be chosen by the legislature and the governor and academics or others who would work on using the most recent census data to draw legislative district lines as well as congressional district lines, and would have accountability to the public to make those lines fair and equitable in terms of where the individual districts end up.
IRCs are necessary because it removes self-interested politicians from the process of redistricting, right? We don't want the players to also be the umpires. The effects of IRCs is that you see accountability, you see politicians, they know that their seats are not necessarily a foregone conclusion. The people in those districts, they actually also know that those elections are a foregone conclusion, so you see a higher turnout rate, you see increased participation just among the electorate. Because politicians actually have to be responsive to their voters instead of the donor class and sort of the party machines, they know that voters want to see compromise and they want to see politicians reach across the aisle to reach solutions for the members of that state. And so with that, that's one of the ways you sort of see a decrease in partisanship. So to design an effective IRC, you want to see three things, and it relates to people, power, and process. With people, you kind of want to just see just the general electorate sort of be active in the process. The commissioners are just the general public. They can be experts in this area, but they don't necessarily have to be. You bringing your experiences about your community and your neighborhoods is important enough. Commissioners can also employ experts to learn more about the state, so they can hire, historians, sociologists, and those kinds of people to bring the commission more knowledge just about the state generally. With power, we want the commission to sort of rely on a set criteria to draw these maps, for example. The ones we like to see are partisan fairness, protecting communities of color, language minorities, and those kinds of things. With process, we would like to see transparency. We would like the commission to have an open website where people can submit maps. We would like to see public hearings that have sufficient notice, right? We want people to have plenty of time to actually be able to show up to attend their hearings and express their opinions.
We feel really strongly that there should be a lot of transparency in that process, that it is really important that the public, all the voters like me and you and other people, have an opportunity to weigh in on the maps and to talk about where there are these kind of communities of interest, because the commissioners will have to be, to some extent, sort of informed about how those lines should be drawn so that you can protect a community of interest and you can make sure that those things happen in a way that will satisfactorily represent those individual communities across the state.
These independent commissions, where they exist, are the product of a state constitutional amendment, a provision in the state constitution, typically passed by the voters at the polls, but it has to get on the ballot. And in some states, it can get on the ballot just by having some citizen group just collect a bunch of signatures. In Michigan last year, they got 430,000 signatures through volunteer efforts to get it on the ballot, and it passed.
The IRC in Utah was also created by a ballot initiative, and Utah, which is a Republican state, what you're seeing is that it's not really a Democratic or a Republican thing. What it is voters are just tired of politicians choosing them instead of voters being able to choose their politicians. IRCs are a great option for every single state in the union. A lot of states allow you to use the ballot initiative to bring IRCs to that state, but some states don't actually allow the process of ballot initiatives. So in those states, it might require more work upon organizers and people coming together and pushing their state legislators to create an independent redistricting commission.
Americans can step up and help us in this fight. They can join their statewide organizations that are trying to push for redistricting reform in their state. They can make their voices heard with their members of Congress. They can join what is a really growing chorus of voters. I don't think they'll have any trouble finding people to join with in their state.